And in the end, Chris Brady goes right all 5 times, and 4 of them go left, unfortunately. Look, not the results you want if you're Chicago Fire there. You do have to feel good about the way you battled back, though.
I feel good about battling back. I think 100%. And I think now you go into the game at SeatGeek Stadium next week with a lot more confidence than if it had ended in regulation.
And you did all this without Philip Zinkernagel, too.
Yeah. The other thing is, I'm going to be curious to know, whose choices were these? Because was this entirely left to the players who to take, or did Greg Berhalter pick 2 center backs?
Look,
Both of whom missed. I mean, I don't mind Elliott taking, but the reality is you had 2 center backs take. They both missed, and you leave Jonathan Bamba and Haile Selassie on the sideline.
We know from PKs that are taken during the run of play that they have a list of people, and then they just kind of go based on who's feeling it, and he doesn't think that there's a point in coaching him more than that. But it's still...
There's gonna be questions. Again, it's one is, and again, yes, we rag on Jonathan Bamba a lot, but you're $8 million a year guy. You're in a playoff shootout, and he's sitting on the sideline not taking one. I mean, whether it's Berhalter's choice or his, pretty inexcusable.
Look, I think the story of this game comes down to, one, the main thing is Philip Zinkernagel. Let's be honest, right? Philip Zinkernagel plays in this game. I think you have a very, very real chance that the Fire come away victorious. I think that's fair to say. You also have to think about, I don't think Greg Berhalter set this team up for success today. I said it in the pregame, and I feel confident saying it, a little bit of hindsight, of course, but you controlled the game in the first half as much as anybody did. You didn't in the second until Brian Gutierrez came on. You were missing it. You had nothing in the midfield, and it's a disappointing result for a lot of reasons.
So it was a team that stayed 0-0 until half, though, which on an away game against the Supporter Shield winners, I think you have to take. I think so. Is your point basically that there should have been quicker subs? Is that what you wanted to see?
No, I think my point is lining up in that back 5, you kind of said a tough game, a sloppy game is the best we can hope for. And against a team like Philadelphia Union, I don't think that favors the Fire. Versus if you say we're going to come out, be aggressive, lead the charge, and try and play on the front foot, that's playing your game, even if it plays into what they do. It's kind of you don't want to play into what they do, but that's also what you do best. And at a certain point, you need to go strength on strength.
Yeah, I think that it was an interesting choice. I think that he was kind of like dropping hints that he wasn't going to go to we talked about this in the pregame, going to go to the back 5, which made me think that he was, and that's what we ended up seeing. I think the question you got to ask yourself, though, is do you do that again, just trusting that if you have Philip Zinkernagel in, that it would have been more than 0-0 at half? Because I think that there's a realistic argument to be made that when that lineup was chosen, Zinkernagel was in it, and if Zinkernagel was in, the Fire had a very good chance of having won that game.
And he's taking a penalty, too.
And he would have taken a penalty and gotten to the same result.
Again, I love confidence from players and saying, I want to take one. But again, it's, this league, one of my favorite press conference answers ever was Xherdan Shaqiri, tongue-in-cheek, talking about Inter Miami when the Fire beat them that first year where Messi was out. And Shaqiri, tongue-in-cheek, said, with the way the roster's structured in this league, your designated players, they really got to perform if you want to win in this league. And again, to go back to that, it's, if you're going to pay a guy the amount of money that Jonathan Bamba is being paid and he doesn't want to take a penalty, that's a problem. And it's just, it's something that maybe they can't be addressed in the next week, but that the Fire have to think about in terms of, just Jonathan Bamba being a DP means he gets to start every game, or if they go back to the back 3 next game, do we see Brian Gutierrez start, given that Guti's done more in 20 minutes than we've seen Bamba do in...
Yeah, but that's such a... Brian Gutierrez is bad on the wing. Let's just say it. He's not good when he plays on the wing. He is outstanding in midfield. I don't think I'm out of line saying that. So I agree with the sentiment of maybe Marin or Bamba. Guti specifically, I would say no.
I don't know why we're critiquing Bamba so much. For all we know, it wasn't his decision.
It does feel a little assumptive, yeah.
It was probably not his decision. And listen, I've been a fan of a lot of the teams where the best PK takers are not your star boys, are not your DPs. And it's very well the case here. Does that mean he shouldn't start next game? Absolutely not. He got the goal to start the comeback, and he played okay.
And again, it was a challenging situation for him because he was playing against, alongside Marn. And when we've seen Marn in the lineup, normally it has been with Bomba coming off.
Right, that's normally been the sub because, again, John, you talk about the wing thing. I don't really think of those guys in a lot of cases as wingers. Bomba plays more wingery than Zinkernagel does.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't think Gucci's a good fit in the double pivot of the back three, and I think you got to get Brian Gutierrez on the field in front of the home crowd next week.
Yeah.
Summerton.
But hey, John and I will have a lot of time to talk about it tomorrow because I'm looking forward to having Mr. Thornton on the CHGO Player Podcast. So to do a little self-promotion, please tune into that tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Keep an eye out. That should be a fun conversation with Alex and I. Look, I think, look, I don't mean to be the guy. I think we've seen enough to say the back three does not work without Andre Franco.
Did we play back three at all after Franco was hurt?
Yeah. Multiple times, actually.
And I'm assuming.
And we had 2 draws and killed Orlando with a back four.
Yeah, and they didn't look convincing. They started, ironically conceding goals that way, which is sort of like what the back three is supposed to present when you're not.
And
it's going to be intriguing to see how they come out next Saturday. Like to your point earlier, John, do you do the same thing that kind of worked for a while tonight, or do you play your game and come what may?
Yeah, and I think we're going to have a slight cast change. Alex, I'm going to send you back into the ether. Thank you so much again. Alex Campbell, CHGO. Like he said, I'll be on with him tomorrow. So if you're not subscribed to the CHGO Fire podcast and Alex on Twitter, please do. Alex, you want to give us a little promo for yourself, brother?
Like John already said it. You can watch the podcast live on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts. Looking forward to having another member of the MIR 97 community on the show tomorrow. And shout out to these guys for having me. Thanks very much, gentlemen. And I'll turn it over to Alan here for the postgame.
Thanks, buddy. We appreciate it.
I'm going to come up.
Tim is also taken off to join the press conference postgame, so we're going to get Alan back in.
I'm still here, though. Don't worry.
It'll be myself, Matt, and Alan for a few minutes. We'll give you a little bit more of a recap. Hey, good to see you, buddy.
New perspective on life right here. Austin, how do I sound?
Austin's a little, a lot of moving around, guys. And Alan, how are you feeling, kind of leading the vibes of the room here for that second half? How are you feeling with the result?
They came back. They fought. Unfortunately, it came to too much pressure for Elliott, for Waterman. So, but at least, heck, they went all the way to penalties. It wasn't like the other 2 games where the Union came in and it seemed like they swept them aside pretty easily. No, they kept it close. They came back at the end. There was only just a few little, as I like to say, oopsie doopsies, including the red card for our house. So bring on Saturday. That's what I'm going to say. Bring on Saturday.
Look, you got 5 days. You have 5 days to get ready. And again, you have to feel good about your chances. If Philip Zinkernagel comes back, if you're starting that back four, even without Sergio or Rahel, which is going to be a big loss, I think, I do wonder. I do feel like you have to feel good about your chances on Saturday.
You totally do. And at this point, you're not hedging your bets and playing maybe we tank intentionally in game 1 to set up game 2 and 3, because now your season's on the line.
Yeah.
You got to put out your best players. Sergio may or may not be there, but obviously he won't be there because of the red card. And you just got to go for it. And hopefully, I'm sure Tim and Alex shortly will be asking about Philip's status at the press conference. That's where those 2 ran off to, and hopefully you get your star boy, your best player on the season back, which will be an immediate boost to a team that went out, competed, ultimately lost, and that's okay. As soon as you get the PKs, it's always going to be a little bit of a crapshoot. We just lost a crapshoot, and that's okay. And you got a real possibility of sending this game back to Philly, and they've shown they can compete in Philly when the pressure's up there the most. So
Yeah.
I'm disappointed, of course. You always want to see a win, especially after the comeback, but I feel okay.
I also feel okay. And we went to probably one of the most dangerous places in Major League Soccer right now, the home of the Supporter Shield winners. And it was very close to like how we mentioned, where they were going to go 60 something minutes in holding off the Union. and throwing off the rhythm. And unfortunately, it was us that made the first two missteps, whether it was Sam Rogers not marking his man, whether it was Elliott not really going in for the challenge. That's, how it happened. And the Fire have shown that they can come back, and that's exactly what they did. Because honestly, if this was not Greg Berhalter's Fire, it could have, again, ended 4-0, maybe even worse.
Yeah.
As the game went on.
It says a lot about the mettle of the team, right? To actually come out of here with a loss in a shootout, right? And you do wonder, you go down to 10 men, the Fire were still threatening at the end there. You play 120, you might have a chance. You might. And maybe you wouldn't, but look, ultimately, I think you have to take the positives from the game. And I have to feel good going into Saturday. Assuming that you get Phillips Inkernagle back, that should be a win. We should see a game 3. I did see some asking in the chat, is Sergio's red card potentially overturnable? It is. It's obviously available for appeal. Unfortunately, pretty unlikely that gets overturned just from looking at the tape. But you never know who you get in the front office, right?
Yeah, but this is when your midfield depth comes into play, and this is something we haven't had in a while, where you still got guys like Acosta, granted, who hasn't been amazing this season and hasn't played big minutes, and you got Kwame, who obviously Greg trusts, and you have that depth to be able to lose a player. And it's unfortunate that you have to say lose a player, but we did lose a player. And you're still going to be able to put out essentially a full. What am I looking for? First 11 out there. And Sergio might not have even started, even if that red card didn't happen. Who knows what the tactics would have been? But
I think the obvious thing here is Brian Gutierrez should not be on the bench for another minute of this series.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think
I like that.
Every game you play from here on out, you need 90 plus minutes of Brian Gutierrez because he's the best player on the team right now.
Yeah, and John, I gotta say, it's funny hearing you say that. I know, your takes on Brian Goody in the past, myself included, have not been strong, but you saw what happened when he came into the game for the back, 30, 35? He immediately getting those two choppa-choppas, whatever they're called. On the Philly choppa-choppas, definitely not called choppa-choppas, on those Philly defenders and putting on a clinic. So he's got to start whatever formation it is. And with Sergio off, not available, I feel like it's even more likely that you're going to see Brian enter that match.
No, 100%. And look, it's tough to see that lack of performance out of Jonathan Bamba. I mean, the goal aside, it was not exactly a stellar Jonathan Bamba day. I don't know that anybody had a stellar day outside of Brian Gutierrez, to be frank. And yet, you found yourself going to penalties. And again, I don't mean to be a broken record or kind of sound like we're carrying water for the club, because that's not the intent. But looking at it objectively, I feel like you do have to feel good about your chances on Saturday and then on the following Saturday as well to hopefully get a result in game 3.
And also, looking at the future, God forbid the Fire lose on Saturday. Next season, when this team has an opportunity to gel, their ceiling is going to be significantly higher. And that's not even including the fact that if they restructure the roster, they still have an open DP spot. Yep. So the ceiling for this team, regardless of what happens on, what is it, Saturday, it is really, really high. And the future for this team is really, really good.
Well, let's not talk like it's the offseason already.
I'm not talking like it's offseason, but I'm just saying, regardless of what happens, in my opinion, I've seen a successful season. You saw, they came back game 1, they gave it their all. They'll give it their all on Saturday, and whatever happens, it's been a successful season. And I'm very confident about the future of this organization.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, fellas, anything else we want to add before we kind of wrap up here?
It's just been, first of all, just so much fun to have this experience of doing
100%.
a proper watch along. I know we did one in the far, in the past, I remember. I think it was against Austin.
Austin in the U.S. Open Cup.
In the U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah.
But this time we actually got the gang together. Even Austin, the MVP, is here. And so we had fun nonetheless. We even had good old Mike McGee on as well. So
and Sparky.
And Sparky as well. So
yeah, shout out Sparky.
I'm hoping that in the future we can have more of these kind of pods, especially if, knock on wood or whatever, the Fire make it to the next round.
Yeah. Look, a couple things we'll toss out. First and foremost, just an update from Tim in the press conference. It's an oblique injury for Phillips Inkernagle. They don't have an answer on severity yet, so should have more information on that Monday or Tuesday, you would think. Hopefully it's pretty minor. Yeah, I think, fellas, anything else we want to talk about before we wrap up here?
No, special thank you to the Chicago Fire for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah.
And most importantly, to Alan, John, Austin, and especially Tim for being the partner and putting this amazing event on last minute. Like Alan said, it is the hope of everybody at this panel and everyone you've seen today that we continue to get out there and watch more games. So stay strong.
To that end, a massive, massive thank you to the Endeavor Health Fire Pitch for having us today, giving us this really cool setup and allowing us to be here and kind of do all this live and get in their way. And special thanks to the club. Shout out Austin, who has been over there on the fly, making things happen for us all day, doing really wonderful work. And above all else, thank all of you for tuning in, for watching, for continuing to watch. Like I said, we're coming up on 70 episodes for the year, which is a massive number of recordings to do. It's a lot of work, but we appreciate the love and the support that we get along the way. Lastly, I would say, as always, stay tuned. meninred97.com, to all our social medias at meninred97, just about everywhere. That's where you'll find the latest updates on Philip Zinkernagel, on Sergio Arahel as we get ready for Game 2 in this series. And if wherever you're watching this, you're watching on YouTube right now, if you're listening back to kind of this mini recap on the podcast sites that you use, if you could rate, subscribe, share, let folks know that we're out there. That's the only way we grow the game and grow the culture and all that fun stuff. And again, a massive, massive thank you to Endeavor Health Fire Pitch for having us here at Second Star Tavern. It has been a blast, such a cool experience. Thank you to Mike McGee for joining earlier. And all I can say is, I guess, thank you for joining us around the bonfire. And come on, you men in red.